could eat lunch. I could spend $1.50 on lunch and then, have more money to blow on these fucking arcade games, on Street Fighter. So we went there again to the same place in the West Side next weekend. Played them for money, and I wasn't listening to my friend. My friend kept telling me, "Yo, you gotta lose some match," and I was like, "Man, I'm not gonna lose on purpose. These niggas is on my level, man. They nice. I can't just throw away matches to try and keep the money coming in." He's like, "Do you want to make money?" I'm like, "I want to play Street Fighter, nigga." He's like, "We ain't here to play Street Fighter. We here to make money. This is how you hustle, man. This is what hustling's about." And I'm like, "Well, I don't like this hustling stuff because I want to body niggas." And it's me being stupid because we go there to make a profit. We went there to make money, but I couldn't not. I just didn't like losing, and I would beat them niggas to the point where they didn't want to bet on against me anymore. So we would bounce, go back to my area, and we play games for a while. And my friend, his name was Scott. Scott was basically picking out these areas that was getting the games because he knew a lot of people around town. He was one of them kids where his parents didn't care where he went at night. Like we both 7th, 8th graders. We both the same, but I got to be home at a certain time. My mom was strict. You know what I'm saying? She didn't play that. My dad was at work all day. He worked all day and all night. And my mom was strict about me hanging out in these streets at night. But his parents didn't give a fuck. That nigga be in the streets till... He said, "Yo, I was hanging out till 10 o'clock last night." And I was like, "What? 10 o'clock? You crazy." That was crazy to me. But he knew all the spots that had Champion Edition. So he'd be like, "Yo, we got to go here and play now." So we went to this other place to like the northern part of town. And the northern part was where all the money was at. Because they was all rich white kids. It's funny how that is though. Like in the west side of this town that I lived in, it was all Spanish people. In like the middle areas, it was mixed. That's where I lived. It was blacks and Spanish and white. And in the northern part, the rich area, all white people. So he took me to this place in the northern part of my town. It was a long bike ride though. That's the only thing I hated. The bike ride was like, it was a good 45-minute bike ride. It felt like 45 minutes to an hour. It was long. And I didn't like going there because it's like I didn't want to get lost. I never really traveled out of a certain area. And he was like, "Nah, man, I know where I'm going." So I trusted him. Scott knew what he was doing. So we went there and it was just all these white kids in there playing. And this was a legit arcade. There was no like, it wasn't a pizza shop with games. It wasn't a little convenience store with games. It was just an arcade. And I went in there and he was like, "This place is where the money's at." And I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Cuz, look at all these rich white kids, man." And I was like, "Well, you white and you ain't rich." He's like, "Nigga, trust me, man. They got money here. They all go to Catholic schools and private schools and shit like that. They don't go to public schools like we do." And it was true. They was all dressed up a certain way. They looked like preppy kids. They wasn't slumming it like me and my people. So we always peeped the area, we always peeped the competition. I would watch them play, and they were good. They were nice. They was just as nice as the dudes that was the Spanish dudes in the West Side. So I watched them play for a while, and me and Scott would talk, and Scott would be like, "Do you feel like you could beat him?" And I'm like, "I think I could beat him. I don't know about him." So Scott would try to set it up to where I would play certain dudes for $1. The dudes that I thought I could beat, I would play them. And he told me, "We'll make good money if I lose sometimes." And I was like, "Fine." And he's like, "But you can't make it obvious. Don't just walk into attacks and stand there." He's like, you gotta just play, but don't play your hardest." And I'm like, "Fine." And I was losing some games and handing him $1, and it hurt, man. Because really, deep down inside, I just wanted to play the game and beat people. And Rocky was always in the back of my head, but I was tired of looking for this nigga because I looked for him for a few Saturdays and he wasn't around anymore. So I was like, fuck him. I'm gonna just have fun and look for other people to play against. And now that Champion Edition is hot and a lot of new places is getting this game, there's a lot more people to play. But it was hard for me to lose just for money, man. Just to try to hustle people to play me more. And I understood it. I understood that if you lost sometimes, you gave them hope, but I just didn't like losing like that. But I did it. I would lose a game and hand them $1. Then I would win a few games and win $5 back. I'll lose 2 games, lose $2, win a few games, and win $6 or $7 back. So I did that for a while, and then I would leave, and then we would go to another place. Scott found out all the places that had this game, and we started going to different places. And the thing is, I went to those places in a certain order. Like one Saturday, I would go here for an hour, and then I would go there for an hour. The next Saturday, I would go here for an hour, I would go there for an hour. And I did that. That was my schedule. Me and Scott would meet up at the pizza shop in my town, in my area, and we would travel around doing this. And, whatever I made, I would give Scott half of it. So if I got $4, I would give him 2. If I won 50 cents, he would get a quarter. I did it like that because he was basically doing he was like my manager, really. And Scott was always a hustler. He would sell candy. He would buy like 20 lollipops, and for him that cost him $2. And he would sell it on a bus to kids that don't have stores in their area, like kids that live in the woods. He would sell them a lollipop. A lollipop cost 10 cents back then. He would sell it to them for a quarter or 50 cents. He always knew how to hustle. Scott was a good friend. I learned a lot of things from Scott. And we traveled around to wherever he would find a spot to hustle at. And I did this for a while. It's the same thing. I'll go some places and lose some matches, win some matches. Did this for a minute. And then one fucking day, it was a Saturday. I go up the street. Who the fuck is in my pizza shop playing Champion Edition? Yup. Rocky is in there. Rocky had made his way to my territory. He's in there and he's alone. It was great, yo. Like, I didn't really give a fuck about him anymore. It was more about Scott. I was going there to meet Scott and play. Meet Scott and go to places and hustle and play some games, shit like that. But it was just surprising. It's like, and immediately I thought Rocky was there looking for me. That's the first thing I thought, because I was so focused on playing this nigga for a minute that he pops up out of nowhere and I'm like, oh, he wants to challenge me. But he didn't know who the fuck I was. He didn't know who I didn't matter to him. So I walk in and I'm like, yo, Rocky, what up? And he's like, oh, what up, man? And I'm like, what, you here to play? And he was like, what? And I'm like, you here to play? And he's like, nah, I was just in the area and I grabbed some pizza and playing some games. And I was like, fine, I'll play you. I put a quarter in so fast. He's in my territory. He can't deny me. He can't say, go play on that machine. His rules in his area don't work like that in my area. In my area, anything goes. Anybody can play on any machine they want. So I put a quarter in, go straight to Ken, and I'm ready. And I'm like, I'm shaking with excitement. And we play, and he fucking demolishes me, man. I was training mode to that nigga, man. Every time I threw a Hadouken, he jumped over at the perfect time and he would hit me with a fucking combo that would stun me and then hit me with another one that would drain my life to like a pixel and then chip me the fuck out. I put another quarter in. Same thing happened again. And then I started thinking about everybody telling me, you can't beat this nigga, you can't beat Damien. And I started getting mad at myself. Rocky's not talking, he's not popping off. He's just sitting there like playing the game. And I was just standing there getting beat. And I lost $1 to him so fast. And I stopped putting quarters in. I'm like, Damien was right, man. I cannot beat this nigga. And I understood what he meant by Because I said like before, I said he's not doing anything special. I'm playing the way he playing. What is so? But it was his timing. He read me. He knew when I was gonna do something. He knew when to not press a button, and that's an important thing. A lot of people think you gotta press something. The buttons are there. You press them. The best thing, the thing about being good at a game is knowing when to press something and when not to press something. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he was basically giving me a lesson without saying anything. And it's like he knew what I was gonna do. If I was a certain distance away, he knew a fireball was coming, so he would just walk towards me and jump at the right time and just if you threw a fireball and somebody jumped in with the perfect timing back then, you knew a dizzy was coming. You knew a dizzy was coming, man. So after I lost my dollar to him, I just stood there watching him play. And I was like, damn, man. I was like, yo, you're fucking good. I was watching him play the computer. And it's almost like he was toying against the computer. And I'm like, what the fuck? What do you... I was like, yo, what do you do? Like, how do you know when to do things? And he's like, you play like you just learned how to play this game. And I was like, fuck you, man. And he was like, no, I'm not trying to diss you. But when I jabbed, you immediately reacted. Which is basically baiting. He was like, I was baiting you into certain situations and you didn't even know it. And I'm like, what? He was so far past me when it came to this Street Fighter shit. And I was like, baiting? And he was like, you didn't notice every time I threw out a little jab or something, you would rush in and jump? By the time the jab recovered, I had plenty of time to do what I wanted to do because you was in the air jumping. Anytime I would throw out a little strong move or a little quick short, you would throw a Hadouken and I would jump right over that and have plenty. He was like, you was playing into my whole game. He's like, you really don't have any. He's like, you know how to play, but you don't know how to play the person. You play the computer too much. And I'm like, I know how to play people. I was busting people's ass all over the place. I make money. I gamble. I thought I was a shit talking this shit. I'm like, I made like $50 last week playing against people. He's like, yeah, made a little measly $50 and you feel like you that nigga now? And I'm like, what, you gamble? He was like, no. But I know what I'm doing. Just because you beat a bunch of scrubs don't make you great. And I'm like, damn. And Damien never told me this stuff about baiting and stuff like that. Like, Damien told me my timing was bad and things like that and stop rushing in and stop being patient. But I didn't know about baiting people and doing certain things. And it was cool because now I'm talking to Rocky. Like, this is the dude I could never talk to. I thought he was an ass. Everybody says he don't talk to nobody. But I guess out of his territory, he's just, he's a regular guy. You can act like you can act a certain way when you in your own arcade. Like, if I play in my arcade, I can talk all the shit I want because everybody knows me. But if I go out of town, I can't talk all the shit I want. So he was like, he started teaching me while we was there. He's like, look what I do. And he pressed jab and the computer would react to it. And he was like, see, every time I do that, the computer does something. You play like a computer. And I'm like, damn. If I could beat the computer, that means he's saying I could play like the computer. I play like the computer. I could beat the computer. That means I'm shit at this game. I'm not as great as I thought I was. I was like, fuck. And I was like, yo, you know Damien? He was like, yeah, Damien's good. And I'm like, yeah, I learned a lot of stuff from him. And he was like, well, you still need to learn more. He didn't teach you about getting baited and stuff like that. We didn't call it baited back in the day, but that's what we call it. That's what people call it now, getting baited. But back then we said psyched out. He was like, you didn't know about getting psyched out? He was like, you play just like the computer, man, and that's all I got to do against you is just bait you into doing certain things. He's like, I make you play the game I want you to play. You don't even control the way you play the game. I'll control the way you play the game. And to me, that was deep. It's like I was mind blown. It's like the world stopped spinning for a second and everything froze and I could hear my heart beating and I'm like, damn, I don't even play my game. I play the game he wants me to play. I'm like, shit.